YouTube as a whole holds all different types of YouTubers. Some that have held fan bases for years while constantly bringing new and fresh ideas to the table. And then there's some that just crank them out like it's nobody's fucking business with no sign of love or passion with their work. That divide holds true not just for live action videos on the site, but for the gaming subculture as well.
Today we're going to be going over 5 Fortnite YouTubers who've sworn.
Now, one thing that is interesting for the gaming side of the site is that it can help introduce a game that virtually no one has heard of to a group of millions of people instantly. This can turn a tiny little indie game into an overnight success at the release of only one video. Most infamously, you have the game Flappy Bird that got an insane amount of downloads just from one video by PewDiePie, but you also have a ton of other games. Minecraft's creator Notch has said on multiple occasions that his game would not have gone anywhere without the help of YouTubers heavily promoting the game to their fans. And I mean, come on, Notch is a trustworthy guy that has never said anything controversial whatsoever. Just a class act, just a fucking great guy. Now, with the sudden influx of games like Minecraft and Terraria that had exploded because of YouTube attention, you suddenly have a lot of games that try to catch the attention of the YouTube scene. Some of these games can actually be fun and well-crafted video games while also appealing to YouTubers. And then others can be absolute wastes of time that only exist to capitalize on the screaming YouTubers that talk about doo-doo diapers and stinky pee-pee. Like myself, of course. So as the YouTube god I am, I decided to look at a handful of games over the years that attribute their success to the YouTube crowd and see if they actually are worth your time and deserve to be remembered. Some of these games held my attention for a good couple of hours, while some I kept checking the time praying for it to be over. My one rule that I put in place with this video is that I purposely talk about games that are relatively simple, so games like Undertale or Doki Doki Literature Club will not be in this video. Those games are way too large and have way too much shit going on to condense into this one video. So without further ado, let's start with our first game. Slender, the game that perfectly encapsulates the loud and obnoxious era of YouTube. Whether it be overreacting at the shitty model of a faceless man in a suit, or putting Gangnam Style over top of gameplay footage, you just never disappoint, do you? Slender is a game based off of the popular web story Slenderman, and just to get this out of the way, I've never really been a fan of the Slenderman story. It just never was creepy to me, even when I was a little baby bitch. I mean, come on, it's just a white, no-faced man in a suit. His design is pretty generic, but whatever, let's just talk about the game. The game starts with you in the woods with a flashlight, and then tells you to find 8 notes around the woods. That's all you do in Slender, just find these fucking notes. What is on these notes? Nothing interesting or important.
Now don't get me wrong, I don't mind simplicity in my horror games, as it can be done really well in a lot of cases.
But the biggest issue with Slender is that it's just way too bare bones, and really just not scary. You see, throughout the entire time you're being chased by Slenderman, and if you stare at him too long, he comes up and screams in your face. Like I said before, his design is not scary, so when I see him, I don't instantly shit my pants. So you wanna know what this game does to combat that? Random loud noises out of nowhere. Great fucking design, guys. Jump scares are a lot of the time just a cheap way to make the player react, but they normally have a reason for being there. In Slender, you can just be walking anywhere and then out of nowhere, loud fucking noise. It's not scary or unnerving, just fucking annoying. Like seriously, think about it. If the game did not have these loud bangs out of nowhere, would anyone actually find this scary? Like if I played the game on mute, would anything be scary about it? No, not at all.
Real quick, I'm going to show you a couple examples of good jump scares in games and compare it to Slender's shitty jump scares.
Hey, it's a little loud. Can we turn it down? No? Okay, fuck you. Fuck you, game.
I'm tired of this fucking boring ass game. This like filter sucks ass on the screen and everything. It looks like shit. I could just play this without the flashlight or anything. Oh, okay. Okay, there goes my ears. Alright, I'm deaf now. The game made me deaf. Alright, thanks makers of this game, fuck you. Also, another complaint, you just move so fucking slow in the game, which can be mitigated by running, but running has its own problem as your character stares at the fucking ground while he tries to run like an idiot. So you have no idea where you're going, and it just leaves you open for getting killed. So walk at 2 miles per hour like you're in a fucking David Cage game. Slender is a boring, unscary slog that relies on a cheap jump scare tactics to rile up the player. Basically, the game deserves to be forgotten. Oh man, now we're getting to the shit I loved years ago. I remember always getting excited for someone like Uberhaxer Nova to upload his videos on this game. For the uninformed, Happy Wheels is an old in-browser game that would require you to finish a level while using one of the many characters on some sort of vehicle. Whether it be a Segway, a bicycle, or a lawnmower, you have to make it through to the goalpost at the end. The game has a couple highlighted levels, but the real meat of the game comes from the online player-created levels. And it's actually still populated? Frankly, I'm shocked about this. This game's like a good couple years old, and there are still new maps coming in at a relatively quick pace. They're even showcasing the best maps on the Play Now option. That's really fucking cool. And talking about the game, it still holds up. There are a lot of really good maps that really push the game to its limits. Sure, you have your levels with hazard spam and don't move challenges, but then you have some that are legit fun levels. My personal favorite one has to be this alien invasion one that isn't a challenge or anything, but has you riding around following a story of a family living through this apocalyptic nightmare. It has a lot of really fun set pieces and just goes to show just how far people are willing to take your level editor if you give them enough options. This type of creativity reminds me a ton of Line Rider, and I mean, they do some fucking crazy shit in that. Someone made a movie, an hour-long movie in Line Rider. Why? Also, real quick in regards to Happy Wheels, I actually made my own level on here a few years ago that got semi-popular. It's just your basic hazard spam level, and the only noteworthy thing is that I apparently didn't know how to count a couple years ago. Thank you all so much. I'm very smart. Thank you so much. I did it. Smart boy right here. Thank you very much.
I'm going to be honest here. I was completely ready to write this game off as another game that capitalizes on the hard to control aspect and do nothing else. You know, the ones that are just like, whoa, we made our character wacky and crazy to control. But playing Surgeon Simulator, it surprised me with how much fun I actually had with the game. Surgeon Simulator is a game that has you using one hand to perform various surgeries throughout the game. You control the fingers with A, W, E, R, and space, while you control the entire hand and how it turns with the mouse. At first, this may seem like something that is only there to be novel and nothing else, but you would be surprised with how much fun this control scheme is once you get the hang of it. Even with the wonky control scheme, the game has a small learning curve to it. At the start, you may think that the best course of action is just to grab a large hammer on the table and just start fucking whacking the shit out of everything, but that will result in a quick game over. Instead, you have to play slow and methodically a lot of the time, using smaller tools like a scalpel to take out vital organs with precision cuts. It causes you to think about what your next move is. There's a lot of small things in the game that you need to think about, like making sure the organ you're transplanting doesn't fall off the table, or making sure you don't stab yourself with the drug, or else you become a full-on fucking addict. And shockingly enough, this game actually has a lot of content. You have brain surgeries, heart surgeries, surgeries in space, surgeries in the back of an ambulance, and even a full-on Team Fortress 2 surgery based off of the Meet the Medic short, which is the best TF2 short, so that 100% gets bonus points from me.
Kill me later.
I was legitimately shocked when I found myself playing this game for around 2 hours and having a truly fun time with it. And oh yeah, one more thing. The fucking soundtrack kicks ass. It has no right to be as good as it is. It's got this like 80s synth vibe to it. It's fucking great. All this for a fucking
wacky move your arm video game. It's so fucking great. Now, after how much Surgeon Simulator surprised me, you would think that I would have the same sort of praise for something like I Am Bread. I mean, think about it. It has the same sort of novel concept with it being a difficult control scheme that allows you to move around. And I mean, come on, you're controlling bread. That's fucking hilarious. I'm dying all over the place. Fucking comedy legends over here. Move over, Portal 2, with your excellent writing and well thought out jokes, because you just got bested by a game with bread. Fuck you. Yeah, I don't really like this game. I mean, I really don't like this game. The reason for that is pretty simple. It is one note. While Surgeon Simulator had a ton of variety in its game with tons of levels and surprisingly complex gameplay, this game just has you going from the beginning of the level to the toaster and toasting yourself before you become spoiled. And that's it. It doesn't have any really creative set pieces, it doesn't do anything other than that, and the actual gameplay is nowhere near as exciting or fun. It's just boring. I mean, you could play as other types of bread, but it doesn't really change nearly as much as it should to make this game worth it. Now, what makes this all kind of insulting to me is how manipulative this game feels. With its shallow gameplay and lacking variety, why was this game so popular? Because you're bread! It panders to YouTubers 100% and does nothing more to expand on it being an actual game. I feel it's like the equivalent of a Transformers movie, only appealing to the lowest common denominator because, hey, that's what makes them money! While Surgeon Simulator had some sort of class by being a game about surgeries, this game has absolutely none and is completely shameless. And even a mediocre Team Fortress level won't save it for me. And that's saying something.
Every night to finally romantic find newcomers to play with us. For many years we've been all alone.
Oh, now we're getting to the big games. This one, almost everyone has heard of. The one game that has the ugliest merch of all time, yet is still sold and purchased all over the place. Five Fucks at Freddy's. Fuck that shit. I mean, Five Nights at Freddy's is the phenomenon that almost everyone has seen. But let me just sum it up for you real quick. You are a guy in charge of watching over a Chuck E. Cheese ripoff throughout the night, and the animatronics come to life and try to kill you. This means that you have to conserve your energy before they come and jump scare you. This game was an overnight success due to the likes of Markiplier giving it so much attention, and has even spawned countless sequels of varying quality. Now, what do I think of the first one? Now, a lot of you are gonna hate me, but it's really not that bad. I actually find it to be a pretty decent game for $5. Now, I already know so many of you are going to call me a hypocrite because I called Slender shit while defending this game. But just hear me out. For starters, I like the designs of the animatronics way more than the design of Slenderman. They hit that sort of childhood fear in your mind of those creepy as fuck Chuck E. Cheese animatronics and gives you much more of a creep factor than this faceless fuck over here. And most importantly, the jump scares here are actually kind of deserved. What do I mean by this? Well, remember how in Slender you could just be walking and all of a sudden, boom, loud noises, no fucking reason. That shit is annoying. In Five Nights at Freddy's, the jump scares only come when you fuck up and lose. That adds a whole new level to the game now. Instead of being scared that the game is gonna randomly be a dick and scare you, it is tied to the skill of the player. This is much more enjoyable to me, as I don't feel like I'm constantly being punished for just playing the game. This small thing actually makes the game that much more tense as you are constantly worried about you fucking up. Now, with that said, the game isn't perfect. For starters, without jump scares, the game wouldn't really be scary at all. Now, I don't have a big hate boner for jump scares as much as some others do, but I do agree that they aren't the highest art when it comes to horror. Secondly, the game is way too easy once you know what to do. Now, even though it isn't perfect, I think it is a fine game. Worth $5? It depends on the person, frankly. If you want to have a tense time, maybe with a couple of friends playing on a TV, go right ahead. Do no harm. Now, before we go on ahead, though, I'm going to real quickly sum up the rest of the series. Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is a much more fun game that adds new mechanics to make the gameplay fun, but it still relies on jump scares. Five Nights at Freddy's 3 completely ruins the series by adding in jump scares that come out at random, no matter what, and being very bland and boring in the long run. Five Nights at Freddy's 4 tries way too hard with its designs, and Sister Location, it just tries to change up the formula, but ends up creating a game that is more generic and boring than it is scary. It's really just a damn shame. Here's the final game I'm going to be talking about, and it's the most recent one, coming out only last year. If you haven't heard of it, it's by the same guy who made Quap, Bennett Foddy, and he comes to create this simple game. You play as the swole as fuck guy in what seems to be a pot, and have to traverse up the mountain using only a hammer you have and your upper body strength. You control the hammer by using the mouse, and that's it. Just climb the mountain. Now, before I get into what I think of the game, I know some people are already going to be upset that I even include this game in here. There's a large amount of people who consider this game high art and praise it for having a message about overcoming rage and accomplishing a goal. Firstly, this game 100% got popular on the YouTube scene, as the numerous amounts of rage videos is what put this game on the map. Secondly, and most importantly, the message shown comes off incredibly weak in my eyes. I mean, you have a game here that is all about failure and retrying, which is fine, but it comes at a sacrifice of the gameplay. And just to let you know, I hate that shit. The gameplay here doesn't really innovate past what you have here, and the level design never really changes. Me personally, I find no joy in playing a game only to get upset that doesn't have any meaningful reward for continuing. If I were to continue in this game, I wouldn't find a whole new exciting world or new gameplay options. I would just be greeted with more of the same. And that's why the message doesn't work to me. I'm not giving up on the game because it's excruciatingly hard or anything, but because the game doesn't have enough variation for me to enjoy it. I don't like the core gameplay, and since it doesn't do anything extra on top of that, I just don't care. And since I don't find the core mechanic engaging enough, the game and message just fall flat. And while I won't spoil the ending here, I do want to talk about it. It's an idea that is interesting and neat, but I feel would serve us better in a whole different game. Getting Over It is not a bad game, just an incredibly overrated one. I can 100% see why someone would enjoy this game. However, there's not enough there for me as a person who considers games as art and also just likes to play a fun fucking game. Basically, the ham-fisted message of the game just comes off as half-baked. So yeah, YouTube is an important asset to game developers, and with the popularity of live streaming on Twitch, that is doubly so. Having your game be showcased by a large YouTube or Twitch streamer can suddenly bring all this attention to your game and cause it to become an overnight success. However, and I cannot stress this enough, you need to make sure you are not just pandering to that demographic, and that you're actually trying to make a good game underneath it. The games like Slender and I Am Bread pander to that crowd, but fail as actual games. Where on the other hand, Surgeon Simulator and Happy Wheels stand the test of time because they are in fact good games. And don't get me wrong, just because you make a smaller game that isn't as big as something like Minecraft or Undertale, that does not automatically make it bad. However, if you're only pandering to the YouTube demographic, and I forget about your game after only a few measly hours, then what you've made is essentially YouTuber bait. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have some light reading to do, if you catch my drift.